Welcome back to Sports Court. I'm Tamara Holder. The Johnny Manziel saga continues. Fort Worth police initially cleared the quarterback of charges in the alleged assault of his girlfriend, but the NFL and Dallas police are still investigating the incident that Colleen Crowley says left her deaf in one ear. Now, a controversial report from NFL Network reporter Mike Silver alleges the Cleveland Browns lied when Johnny Football showed up to practice drunk or on some kind of pills or something, and covered it up by saying he was undergoing concussion protocol, and that's why they kept him back for the last game of the season. So what's next for Manziel, and at what point does the NFL intervene? Joining me from Chicago to discuss is sports reporter Julie DiCaro. Welcome, Julie.
Hey, Tamara. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. I know that you talk a lot or write about a lot of domestic violence issues in sports particularly. I want to know, what does this say about the Browns?
Well, I think that a lot of it is the stuff that we've been saying about the NFL, ever since the Ray Rice incident came to light, which is that there is a lot of people invested in making sure that these guys play football on Sunday, no matter what's going on off the field. I know the Browns have denied that they lied and said that Manziel had a concussion when he actually was intoxicated. Mike Silver, I think, walked those comments back a little bit yesterday, saying that, okay, well, maybe they didn't lie. Maybe, they say he was undergoing a concussion protocol that he was being diagnosed by a neurologist. But the bottom line is that there's a lot of people invested in covering up for these guys and making sure that they're on the field on Sundays. And unfortunately, a lot of the time it winds up being to the detriment of the other people in their lives.
You mentioned something about Mr. Silver walking back his comments, or however, whatever it is, he's not saying that it was necessarily what he originally said was correct. But is that because that he possibly works for the NFL? And
well, that's
why?
been the speculation. Right. The speculation has been that he works for the NFL Network, that the Browns have owned a share of the NFL Network along with everyone else in the NFL, and that they possibly were not too thrilled with his comments, so they put pressure on him to sort of walk those comments back. Whether or not what he said was that he regretted saying they lied, but he didn't say, he said that he was standing by his story that Manziel showed up drunk. So I think that whether or not they lied or whether there was just a little bit of fudging of the injury report or the concussion protocol, I'm not really sure it matters. The bottom line is that, Johnny Manziel apparently showed up drunk, and a lot of people went.
Because there are reports,
on something, right?
Correct, because there are reports not only that from this concussion incident, or I must say concussion incident, and then also the incident with his girlfriend in Texas,
right,
that he was potentially on drugs or something, and it wasn't symptomatic of being drunk. But then I want to ask you about the police involved in all of these cases. We had the case in Cleveland with his girlfriend. He wasn't arrested. Right. And then we have Dallas and Fort Worth. Fort Worth initially saying, we're not going to investigate, case closed, literally case closed. And now right, Dallas says, okay, we're going to investigate. Why is this guy continuing to dodge the law?
Well, unfortunately, in a lot of these cases, there are, local police who, whether they have a relationship with the team like they did out in San Francisco, where the Santa Clara police worked security for the 49ers, or it's a case, where you have an officer who's starstruck. The bottom line is that a lot of these guys wind up walking away. I mean, the Manziel incident that happened in Cleveland where he got pulled over, in all my time that I spent in DUI court as an attorney, I never saw someone be pulled over by a cop, admit that they'd been drinking, and then be let go. Everyone always, if you admit you're drinking, you always get breathalyzed. They always give you field tests. And then there were witnesses saying that they could see him hitting her in the car. The problem with a lot of these cases, though, and in a lot of domestic violence cases, is that you get victims who are not cooperative with the police. And even though it's possible to prosecute a case without a witness, or victim who's going to cooperate and tell her story, it's very difficult.
Right.
So I think what happened in this case down in Texas is that initially the victim said she wasn't going to cooperate, and the Fort Worth and Dallas police just said, okay, we don't have a victim, we're going to close the case.
Correct.
She then went and got an attorney. She went and got an order of protection. When you apply for an order of protection, you either have to testify in front of a judge, this is what happened to me, or you have to put it in a sworn affidavit, which is what she did. So, it looks like someone got to her and spoke with her about, this relationship and the fact that she needed help and she needed some help getting out of this relationship. So I think that's why the police reopened the case.
Well, I think we're definitely going to see, hopefully, a bigger investigation that will become public, and regardless of whether she is going to be cooperative or not, that his day in court will come, because it sounds like he's an abusive man. But I really appreciate your time on this issue, and I hope that you come back.
Thanks, Tamara.
Thank you all for joining. Sports Court is adjourned.